Sheryl, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to Caitlin Clark winning Time Magazine Athlete of the Year?
I don't think I'm surprised. I'm curious to know who the other candidates were.
But we've never seen anything like Caitlin Clark.
Indiana Fever's GM Amber Cox just dropped a bombshell on Sheryl Swoopes during a live broadcast, and let's just say Sheryl might need some ice for that burn from the start. Sheryl has been on a one-woman mission to discredit Caitlin Clark, downplaying her talent and chalking her success up to skin color, all while conveniently hyping up.
She has so many fans, and you saw it across arenas. I mean, people are moving games because so many people wanted to see her.
But Amber wasn't having any of it. She stepped in, called out the nonsense, and shut it down so decisively that Sheryl might not recover her confidence anytime soon. For
the longest time, the WNBA has been trying to get on this global scale, and I feel like that's the direction they are finally headed. I think that WNBA fans have always been proud supporters and pushers of the advancements of this league, but sometimes it takes a certain star of a certain caliber to really just expand and explode the league from the inside out, and that's what Caitlin Clark is.
Honestly, let's get one thing straight. We never needed Sheryl Swoopes a stamp of approval for Caitlin Clark, but it stings just a little when someone with her experience and stature resorts to cheap shots instead of giving credit where it's clearly due.
Wilson in there.
That was just basketball.
So that's what I'm saying. Was it just the performance on the court, or
it's global? It's like, I think it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
From college courts to the WNBA, Clark has done nothing short of flipping the script on what's possible in women's basketball. She doesn't just play the game, she redefines it every step, every three-pointer, every assist screams game changer. Yet here we are listening to Sheryl's stale critiques instead of.
The fact that that's the very first WNBA player to ever win Time Magazine Athlete of the Year is pretty special. And my question is, like the criteria, is it based off of her performance on the court, which, yeah, she had a great year, or is it more about the impact that she had on the game this season?
And speaking of applause, how about Clark being named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year? That's not just an award, it's a flex. It's the kind of accolade that plants her firmly alongside legends like Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods. You know, those rare athletes who don't just dominate their sports, but rewrite their history books for women's basketball. This is seismic. Her stats, oh, they back her up, and then some. Clark's record-breaking college career wasn't just a warm-up. She stepped into the WNBA and immediately started tearing it up. Deep threes that seem to defy physics check, dishing out assists that make you question if she's got eyes in the back of her head. Double check. And let's not forget her uncanny ability to drag entire arenas along for the ride. People who never gave women's basketball a second glance are now showing up just to see her play. I think Caitlin Clark deserved that award. What Caitlin Clark did, because so many eyeballs were on her, was she is a huge multiplier effect of that. But not everyone's here for this new era. And to Sheryl Swoopes, who's been consistently skeptical about Clark's rise, it started with her dismissing Clark's college dominance as hype, throwing in a bizarre claim about her age being some kind of unfair advantage. Look, like I don't take anything away from other players that brought more eyeballs. Angel Cam Cameron. Right, like the identity and how much brand recognition these players now have in college absolutely helped the WNBA. That's where Amber Cox came, the Indiana Fever GM, who has made it crystal clear that she's not here for the Caitlin Clark slander, especially when it's coming from someone like Swoopes. In a series of no-nonsense interviews, Cox has not only stood her ground but completely dismantled the tired criticism surrounding Clark. For Cox, this isn't just about protecting a standout rookie. It's about calling out outdated narratives and reshaping the way women's basketball is perceived. But we've never seen anything like Caitlin Clark. Let's start with the obvious. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, and Cox isn't shy about saying so. We've never seen anything like Caitlin Clark, Cox said, and she's not wrong. Clark isn't just showing up and playing, she's packing arenas, shattering TV ratings, and dragging the WNBA into the mainstream spotlight it's been chasing for years. Caitlin Clark is a superstar, not a female superstar. She is a superstar. We were coming to see Caitlin Clark play. She moves the needle. The WNBA has been looking for someone who moves the needle. Of course, not everyone's thrilled about Clark's meteoric rise, like Swoopes, who's been throwing shade from the sidelines like it's her full-time gig. She's questioned everything from Clark's college dominance to her supposed effect on the Fever locker room, even implying jealousy and division among teammates. Obviously, as we get into free agency, the number one priority for us is resigning Kelsey Mitchell. I think that backcourt was about as lethal as we've seen in the WNBA, and I'm talking maybe in history, in the second half of the season last year. But Cox wasn't about to let that narrative gain traction. In an interview with In Case You Missed It host Christina Williams, Cox shut it all down, calling Clark more than just a player. She's a movement. Caitlin is someone who brings more eyes to our game, someone who opens Doors for all of us, Cox said, firmly putting Swoopes as petty critiques in the rearview mirror. We want to reunite Caitlin and Kelsey. And Kelsey, when I think about her and her time in Indiana, and a lot of trials and tribulations throughout her career, so for me and for us, I'm most excited for her to be in this moment and experience so much of success. Cox didn't stop there. She dropped the receipts. Attendance through the roof. Fever home games sold out. Fans buying season tickets. After seeing Clark play once, these aren't just feel-good stories, they are hard numbers that prove Clark's impact is undeniable. And for Cox, it's not just about what brings to the Fever, but what she's doing for the entire league. Players like Clark aren't just the future, they are the present, and they are elevating everyone around them. Surprised by Caitlin Clark and the Fever's improvement since the Olympic break. What 20 points are 8. 4 assists, 6 rebounds. That's crazy hell of a number those are, but to me that's not dominating. As for Swoopes' claim that Clark is causing friction in the Fever locker room, Cox didn't hold back. She described the team as a tightly knit unit and highlighted the chemistry between Clark and veterans like Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey and Caitlin aren't just teammates, Cox explained, they are a dynamic duo in the making over there. Yeah, so you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team. They are like I want to be here. The idea that jealousy is brewing, pure fiction, according to Cox, who pointed out how Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston have embraced their roles as leaders and partners alongside Clark. The backcourt pairing of Mitchell and Clark, she said, is already shaping up to be one of the deadliest combos in the league. So much for division you could see, and I've heard about how close this unit was. Cox also made it clear that Swoopes' accusations don't hold water. A lot of what's being said doesn't align with the reality of what's happening in our organization, she said, pointing to the overwhelming support Clark has received from her teammates and star. Fever players have even taken to social media to celebrate Clark's milestones and commend her relentless work ethic. If there's division in the locker room, it must be hiding really well what Caleb Clark did, because so many eyeballs were on her. Was she is a huge multiplier effect of that. I see a lot of players wanting to go in this offseason. A lot of players, but let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about Swoopes versus Clark, it's about what happens when a new era starts to take shape. Cox sees Clark as part of a wave of talent that's redefining the game, and she's not interested in putting the old guard against the new. This isn't about replacing anyone, Cox said, it's about building on what legends like Swoopes created. Obviously, we want to take the next step, so I think as we're looking to free agency, we'll think about veterans coming in with that playoff experience. And from this comment you can analyze that Amber Cox is playing chess while everyone else is fumbling with checkers. Since stepping in as GM of the Indiana Fever, she's been laser-focused on building a team that doesn't just compete but dominates. Her vision is bold, her strategy calculated, and her decisions, let's just say, they don't always sit well with fans and analysts who are more comfortable with the status quo. But Cox isn't here to play it safe, she's here to build a dynasty. Its entirety should have been featured. How do you respond to those comments, and do you think the award should have been given to the entire WNBA rather than Caitlin Clark individually? I think Caitlin Clark deserves take the 2024 WNBA expansion draft. For example, Cox made headlines when she left Tammy Fagley unprotected, sending shock waves through fans who couldn't believe she'd let go of a player averaging 4 points and 7 rebounds while vibing perfectly with Caitlin Clark on the court. The outrage was loud, but Cox had receipts. This was not about losing Tammy, it was about gaining flexibility, she explained, essentially telling everyone to chill and watch the bigger plan unfold. I think they gave other people their credit while also giving the credit where it was most due. These things can be done at the same time, and that the joke I've always had is the reverence tax. I've never seen anything like with the WNBA where you have to pass an exam, and that plan, it's starting to look genius by freeing up cap space and roster slots. Cox positioned the Fever to make a serious run at top-tier free agents. The name on everyone's lips, Uta Sabali, coming off a season where she averaged 9 points and 4 rebounds. Sabali is the kind of player who can guard every position and contribute on both ends of the court. In other words, she's the perfect fit for Cox's vision of a versatile, defensively solid team. Pair her with Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aaliyah Boston, and you're looking at a lineup that could send shivers down the rest of the league's spine, because people think it's about something else rather than that being the root of it and the basis of it. But Cox also talked about the expansion draft and the decision not to protect Tech KFEG Benley. We heard similar comments from the Fever front office before. The Cox isn't just banking on Sabali. The Fever are also rumored to have their eye on Gabby Williams, another defensive powerhouse who adds depth and playmaking. The theme here is clear. Cox isn't interested in flashy one-tick ponies. She's building a team that can outlast, outplay, and outsmart any opponent. Last season she played a really huge part in the Beavers' success in terms of getting to that point where you all were able to make the playoffs, but also her ability to run the floor with Caitlin Clark and how their games complemented each other. What makes all of this possible? Cox's financial wizardry. The Fever entered the 2024 offseason with $650,000 in cap space, one of the highest figures in the league. This wasn't an accident. By carefully managing contracts and planning for the future, Cox has given the Fever the kind of flexibility most teams only dream about. We've positioned ourselves to be aggressive in free agency while ensuring we keep our core intact, she said in a press release, essentially throwing shade at every GM who doesn't know how to balance a budget. Like, I don't take anything away from other players that brought more eyeballs. Angel Cameron Wright, like the identity and how much brand recognition these players now have in college absolutely helped. At the heart of it all is Caitlin Clark, the franchise's crown jewel and the WNBA's brightest Star since being drafted in 2023, Clark has done nothing but exceed expectations. 20 points, 4 assists and 6 rebounds per game in her rookie season. Those are video game numbers, but it's not just the stats, it's the way she plays, the way she carries herself, and the way she brings fans into the fold. Clark isn't just a player, she's a walking, talking three-point draining phenomenon. Her impact off the court is just as massive. Games featuring Clark have seen a 35% bump in viewership, and her endorsement deals with brands like Nike and Gatorade are bringing unprecedented attention to the WNBA. Amber Cox gets it. Caitlin's rise opens doors for every player in the WNBA, she said, highlighting how Clark's success is about more than just her, it's about elevating the entire league.